Hello, the purpose of this video is to kind of explain this document of scope. Scope is extremely important when you're coding to understand what you're accessing and what you have access to. In this video, we're going to go over the differences of let and const and var, and of course scope. And you'll understand scope a lot better, and you'll understand how var plays with scope. So first of all, global scope. We have our first example here. This is commented out. I'm going to uncomment it with command question mark or that slash key. And you can see here that this is not surrounded by curly braces, obviously, as you can clearly see. It's also, as you can see, not inside a function. So it is a part of our global scope. It isn't a part of a block scope, which is curly braces, and it isn't a part of a function scope, which is a function with curly braces and whatever's inside those curly braces. All right, so I'm going to comment that out again with command question mark or forward slash rather. And I am going to go down to block scope. So here we have some examples. I'll just uncomment all of these. We have our while loop, our for loop, and our if statement. And these are these are all block scope. You can pay attention to these curly braces here. This is really what you're looking at. The curly braces are telling you this is a block scope, and block scope. Okay. Now they can be while loops, if statements, for loops. They could be other things as well. Okay. Excellent. So we understand block scope is curly braces, and we understand global scope is something not inside curly braces, something outside of a function. And now let's go to our function scope. I'll get to those examples we just scrolled past in a second. Our function scope is anything within a function curly braces. Now you can see here we have a few different kinds of functions. There are I mean, this is the IIFE, immediately invoked function expression, is something very new to me as well that I came across. So you can see here curly braces. Pay attention to the curly braces. We have a function scope here, function scope here, function scope here, and function scope in the purple. You see that? And function scope there. You can also see in this one, we also have function scope here as well in the blue, which we'll get to that example later. All right, so we understand function scope is anything inside of these curly braces. So let's comment these out. Oh, one more. And let's go to our examples with var and let. And how do they play different? Let's first go over the most common, which is let, that came out. So let's look at this example. So first of all, let's just collapse everything for a moment. We know that this is called function scope. Everything inside these curly braces is within function scope. Now, if there's any curly braces inside of these curly braces, that is a part of another scope. Let's just talk about that for a second. So if I have a bunch of curly braces here, let me do that. So I have a ton of curly braces here, right? Hopefully your code never looks like this, where you have that much. And I say let a equal 8 inside of this. Now this is block scope, the blue, block, 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 and so on and so forth, right? All of these are block scope. Now, can this access the a variable that I'm declaring inside of this box? This is only existing once we have created this box. Once we are inside this box, when we are in this box, it is created. A is equal to 8. Can the big box exist inside the small box? No, it cannot. It obviously is holding the small box, but it cannot access what is made inside the small box because it can't fit inside of it. Basically, the the outer scope can't access the inner scope. So think of, I mean, you could say this is the global object, right? Um, you could say maybe this is our functional, uh, we can say global scope. Function, we have function scope, we have object, and so on and so forth, right? Basically, we can't access, like this can access whatever is held by its bigger things, but these bigger things cannot access what's inside the smaller things. So global can't access function or object or so on and so forth. However, function can always access global. So it goes upwards, right? So if global made something, I can access it here in this small little box here. Okay, just a review of scope. So let's look at this example. So we have our function scope here, and inside our function scope, you can see we have a block scope. We have curly braces. Curly braces equals block scope. We have an if statement that says if truth, which is a truthy value, which is always going to happen. So basically, run this code is what we're saying here. So this block will run. But let's look at what's inside our function scope. Let a b equal dog. And then we're saying, hey, give me a b. Okay, a b is equal to dog. So we should get dog, which we see here. And then on the other console log here, we can see, which is this third one here over in our console, give me a b. A b is equal to dog. Okay, so let's open our block. What's happening inside our block? Oh, look at that. We are declaring the exact same variable again. And so that isn't being accessed out here. So when I say give me AB, I'm not getting cat. It's because cat doesn't exist in the larger scope, right? It only exists as soon as we get inside of here. So basically right now, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm inside the function scope, which this line 51 is within the yellow, within the curly braces, it is accessing dog. But once I get inside here, the block scope, I'm saying let AB equal cat, and then I'm saying, hey, give me AB, and it's giving me cat. Now, why isn't AB giving me dog? Well, the answer is it's because the immediate thing in front of it is cat. Now, let's give an example here. What if dog was A? Well, can I access dog? Well, like I said, I'm the smaller box. I can always access anything larger. So the answer is yes, I can access dog. And you can see that there. So we have A, give me A is equal to dog. Give me A is equal to dog. Give me AB is equal to cat. Give me A again, and A is equal to dog. Now what happens when I try to access AB in the larger scope? This is what happens. We know we can't do it, right? So what should happen? Uncaught reference, AB is not defined. It doesn't exist. It's not defined. And that's true because it only exists once we get inside of the box. And larger boxes cannot fit inside smaller boxes. All right. So that is an example of let. So let's just take a quick look at var. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it because it's not something that is used very often. So var is an example of functionally scoped object. It isn't block-based like let was. So you'll see, let's start at the very top here. We have our functionally scoped area, and we're using var. We're saying a is equal to dog. Give me a. Excellent. I will give you a. I'm going to clear out my console here so you're not confused. So A is equal to dog. Okay, give me A. A is equal to dog, right? Well, with var is looking everything, no matter where, fits inside this function. I can change it. So look at this block here. We have block, we're using the same exact variable, A. What we're doing here is we're actually renaming the variable A. It is now equal to cat. So you can see we're going to console.log A, and it's going to be equal to cat because it's declared here as cat. And then we're going to ask here, and var is going to say, well, A has been renamed to cat. And we can just show that here. We're going to call this function. And you can see we have dog, cat, cat. So var is a little different. It's looking inside our entire function here and saying, hey, if we make any changes, we're going to abide by those changes. All right, so I'm going to get rid of my notes here for a second. We're going to try a fun thing. So we only have one variable, right? A, which is quite fun. We're going to say, what if we do function function silly, and we're going to say var A is equal to mouse. And let's console.log A again. What do you think is going to happen? Now, why isn't it being changed to mouse? Well, first and foremost, silly isn't being called. So we have this function, and we do have this block scope, and we have this function scope here inside. Here, let me get rid of these console logs that are probably confusing us. Make this a little more concise. Okay, so we're declaring var A here inside this function. And then we're saying if, and then we have a block, and then function, and we have function scope again. So why can't, we're redeclaring it here, but this function actually isn't even being run. It's gotta, because it's called silly. Now, if I did this, if I can do that, now what do you think is going to happen? Is A going to be changed? Well, let's take a look. Well, it's not. Why isn't it being changed? We are calling silly, and silly is being run. It's because it is within another function. So var A is being, now if I console log inside here, I'm going to get mouse, right? Obviously, because we're within the function scope of this, and we're going to get mouse. And I'll just show you. Actually, I will just. So we have mouse being changed here. Again, it's a new function scope, right? This is a whole new function scope area. Now, if there are block scopes within the function scope, we would rechange. So if we did like this if statement inside of this function, just copy that piece of code. Now var a is going to be changed again to cat, right? We're declaring it here, and then we're redeclaring it here within this function scope. And then we have another function scope inside here that is also redeclaring. So remember that function scope, if you add another function within a function with the var keyword, it's only going to change the blocks. If you have a block scope, it's going to go through those block scopes, but not the functions. So just some scope and how var works. I hope that was helpful. Maybe we'll make another video about how our um, our immediately invoked function expressions can work with closures, but that's going to be the end of this video.